We live in a world that is hyper optimized to distract you with pleasure. But not just any pleasure, a highly unhealthy form of pleasure, a highly addicting form of pleasure, a pleasure that creates escapism, a highly habitual, compulsive, and accessible form of pleasure. It's absolutely everywhere within our Western culture. And it feeds into this tendency to escape ourselves, escape our existence, escape our potential over and over and over again on a daily basis at every single point throughout the day. And if you're not careful, this can literally rob you of years of your life. I've spoken to people who spend 10 hours a day on their smartphone. And you might say, but Lucas, pleasure feels good. I like pleasure. What is wrong with that? It's not that there's anything wrong with enjoying pleasure. But the problem is that it's compulsive. It's mindless. It's an escape from ourselves, from our existence, from problems that we face, from our emotions, from our connections, from what is true, from what's beautiful. It's a disconnecting force from our existence. This is the problem. It's not a matter of is pleasure good or bad. It's a problem of where does our impulse to seek pleasure come from? Is it an avoidance of anything? And what are the consequences that it actually has on us? The reality today is that practically everyone is easily able to distract themselves and escape reality whenever they want. And it's not really seen as highly dangerous. I think a good example of this is our smartphones. Our smartphones are some of the most addicting things that we all have access to. And young people are born into a world where they basically grow up nowadays and they're addicted to their smartphones by the time they are teenagers. There's social media, there's porn, and I don't really have to go on about what's really on the phone. Young people nowadays are born into a world of just endless distractions, and they have little to no impulse control. They have little to no vision for their own life, little to no real connection or knowledge of self, and little to no guidance as well, because a lot of the people that are supposed to be doing that are also stuck on their smartphones. They eat a lot of junk food. They're also in the exact same traps that our highly consumerist, capitalist culture creates. And many of these people that are supposed to be doing that guiding have lost sight of the beauty and profundity of life. And instead of self-actualizing, instead of doing a lot of inner work, instead of really connecting with life at the deepest possible levels, they traded that for a series of short-term pleasures. And I'm not being judgmental. I'm just being observant. I'm not putting anyone down. I'm just stating the problems that we actually face today. The problem is that we numb ourselves to our experience through our technology, through junk food, through entertainment, through porn, and mindless pleasure of any kind as a whole. And it's all just kind of wrapped up and packaged as fun. This is just what life is. But deep down, there's a lot of pain and suffering that goes completely overlooked. And then it's hidden. It's covered up by this sort of illusion of happiness, when in actuality it's just a series of short-term pleasures and the avoidance of already existing suffering. The problem is that we're creating an environment that fosters addiction. It creates low consciousness and just low feeling states. The problem is that businesses have exploited you. And these businesses don't care at all about you. What they care about is their bottom line exclusively, just their profit. And these businesses have exploited you, they've hooked you, and they've created addictions inside of you in order for you to keep coming back to their products. And these products don't really give anything of healthy value to you. Instead, they're taking from you. They're just sucking from you like leeches. They're just taking from you repeatedly. Ideally, when you give your money to something, it's supposed to give you value back. It's supposed to come back to give you far more than what you've put into it. But this isn't the case with a lot of these kinds of businesses. I think some examples of this are fast food, social media, porn, etc. Now, I want to kind of give you a question. How long can our species survive with this degree of sickness? We rely on sickness to survive in a lot of cases. Our survival relies on the continuous creation of sickness, of low consciousness. Our food, for example, is full of heavy metals that get stuck in the body. They feed viruses that are already existing inside of your body. Our environments are full of heavy metals, our polluted air. Our information diets are sickening because these social media websites are just loaded with garbage. They're loaded with people who don't care at all to provide you with anything thoughtful, anything that provokes a sense of curiosity or motivation or connection to yourself. Instead, they promote pretty garbage ideologies that are very narrow. They don't encourage you to expand your perspectives. Instead, they try and trap you into their own, limiting your mind. I think another really good example of this is how toxic our workplaces are and the work we do. A lot of the work that we actually do is sickening. The workplaces are not good environments, and the work we do quite literally contributes to sickness on planet Earth. Selling pizzas, selling fast food, a lot of entertainment. In all sorts of ways, we contribute to the destruction of our planet, to the destruction of our own species, in the name of money and profit. So this is really what I mean when I say that we are relying on the construction of sickness to actually survive as a species. And most people aren't even aware of it. They don't even recognize how their own jobs contribute to what we call evil and just low consciousness. How about our relationships? Our relationships nowadays are extremely toxic, and due to our extremely disconnected world, our extremely disconnected culture, which is also sick, people don't even really know how to properly connect with other people. People don't really know how to have highly fulfilling relationships. People give up on relationships entirely. Now, a lot of these businesses that I was talking about basically just take your energy, they take your time, they take your life. See, your attention isn't just a little thing. Your attention is where your energy goes. What you give your attention to is what you give your energy to. And ideally, when you give your attention to something, the energy that you're getting back from that thing is supposed to help you in an ideal situation. But this, of course, isn't always the case. A lot of these kinds of businesses that I mentioned previously take your energy, time, and attention, aka your life, and use it to just increase their bottom line, use it to just increase their profit. They give you nothing back that's actually of value. It's parasitic, actually. And this is all kind of hidden behind the scenes. It's not put out there that, hey, we're creating addiction inside of you. It's just slowly done. And I'm not trying to foster any kind of conspiracy theory type thinking. These businesses are at low levels of consciousness. And a lot of these people also are addicted to the very same things that they've created to make money. A lot of these people who do this kind of stuff are also not well. We have suffering people exploiting suffering people. Sick people exploiting sick people. And a lot of the marketing that these businesses do is simply designed to provoke a reaction inside of you so that you buy immediately. You don't like that pimple on your nose? Well, buy our cream. You want to lose that fat because no one's going to find you attractive? Well, check out our new pill or our new diet plan or whatever, our new 30-day lose 30 pounds scam. So people are trying to make you unconscious so that you can just purchase their products and services. It's simply manipulative and exploitative. Again, I'm not trying to foster this sort of conspiracy theory type thinking, because I think conspiracy theories are a terrible source of information. But what I am trying to point out to you is this dynamic of low consciousness and sick people exploiting low consciousness and sick people. And that if you are stuck in this trap by doom scrolling, by eating a bunch of junk food, by interacting with businesses and people and places that are sick and stealing your energy, you're quite literally going to lose years of your life. You're going to lose years of your time, your attention, your energy, without even really knowing it, because you're convinced that this is just what life is. And there's going to be a lot of suffering that comes with that. There's going to be a lot of discomfort that comes with that. But Lucas, you promote your coaching. Don't you market yourself? Aren't you manipulating us? Just look at the title of your video. Now, I want to actually discuss this question, and I want to start to give you an idea of conscious business versus unconscious or low consciousness business. Because life doesn't have to be this sort of exploitative, overly competitive thing. There's very high consciousness businesses that exist. I have a book down here, Conscious Business by Fred Kaufman. It's fantastic. So if you're going to use a black and white lens and just kind of think that all business is bad, all business is evil, this is simply naive and false. Business and money is an energy exchange. You're giving and receiving. This is what's really going on here. Everything is energy exchange. Everything is giving and receiving. You give your attention to some food and you eat it and you get energy from it. To people, right? You're exchanging energy with the people. To your job, you're going in, you're exchanging your time for money, etc. Always an energy transfer going on in your experience. The question is, what is the quality of that energy transfer? And is it coming back to actually serve you by far more than what you've put into it? So when businesses are figuring out how to simply exploit you and drain your energy for nothing more than personal gain, first of all, this is sociopathic. If you guys are familiar with the dark triad in psychology, it's narcissistic, it's incapable of empathizing, it's exploitative and manipulative. So I want to give you this idea that not all businesses are the same. This idea that some businesses are at higher levels of consciousness than others. And unfortunately, nowadays, a lot of the businesses that are highly popular are at low levels of consciousness. And most of the wealth that's generated here on planet Earth is done through scamming, deceiving, manipulating, exploiting, creating sickness. and keeping people stuck and in low levels of consciousness. This is the harsh reality that we actually face, but it doesn't actually need to be this way. So some businesses use exploitative marketing and some businesses don't. Some businesses create genuinely healthy value, some businesses don't. Some businesses help the environment in which it's operating, some businesses don't. Again, just like how people can be at different levels of consciousness, the business is itself a kind of abstract entity that can operate at different levels of consciousness. Different businesses have different values, different purposes, right? And before you kind of point the finger and that business is terrible and that one, I want you to recognize that you're very interconnected with all of this stuff. What kind of business do you work for? What kind of business do you have if you have a business? Overall, regardless of the answer to those last two questions, what kind of energy do you give back to the world? You see, what's the vision that you have? What's the purpose? Right? Really concern yourself with, what am I giving into the world? Because the default isn't of giving healthy and meaningful and fantastic value to mankind. That actually takes a lot of emotional labor and some serious development. The default is actually contributing to sickness. If you kind of just go that very normal path, you don't think much for yourself, you don't learn very much, you don't read a lot, you don't spend time contemplating, you don't spend time in meditation, you don't spend time figuring out what is a healthy human? What does that really look like? The default then, because you don't do that necessary work to figure any of that stuff out, is contributing to sickness due to your own ignorance. So, what does your life contribute to? Do you contribute more to sickness or the raising of mankind's consciousness and well-being? And I want you to kind of have a vision here, because if you're a 16-year-old and the only job you can get is selling pizza, of course you have to do that job if that's the only way that you can survive, for example. Right? In some cases, you have to start with where you're at, and that might not look so pretty, but you need that 10, 20, 30-year vision for how you want to give to mankind. You need to tune into your own values, tune into your own heart, tune into your sense of connection to the environment and the people in the world around you. Tune into the interconnectedness of everything. And actually proactively learn, how do I give back to this world in meaningful ways? In ways that are healthy, in ways that are genuinely valuable to it, and not just for my own exploitative gain. The man of value gives more than he receives. This is an Albert Einstein quote, and it's completely true. The man of value doesn't just take and take and take in a parasitic way. The man of value is abundant in wisdom. He gives it out. The man of value is abundant in X, Y, and Z. He's free to give it. Not that he can't receive. The man of value has a very healthy relationship with receiving, but the man of value has created himself into being a man of value intentionally so that he can give repeatedly, because there's a lot of fulfillment in giving. So be brutally honest. What do you contribute to? What does your job contribute to? How about your relationships to people? Where you shop? What are you putting into the world, and what is this feeding into? Because a lot of the evils of the world are created through the people. We're all interconnected. So most wealth on planet Earth, like I said, is created through exploitation and manipulation. It's made through creating sickness. And we're all involved in, let's say, the economic system, for example. And we're involved in all of the consequences that it has around us. So I think once you reach a point in your own consciousness, you can't help but start to take a sense of radical responsibility for the state of the world. Recognizing that I'm impacting it. We're impacting it. And actually just taking responsibility for it rather than denying it or just being ignorant of the role that you're playing here and how you actually contribute to the sickness of the world. Right? So you're not separate from this issue is a core point to this video. You're not separate from any of these problems, any of these businesses, any of these mechanisms, exploitative and manipulative tendencies. A lot of this stuff, unfortunately, exists inside of you. And for as long as you ignore this inner work, the self-actualization work, you will recreate that in every area of your life, because this is a facet of the human mind when it's at low levels of consciousness. It'll bleed into your relationships, making them unfulfilling. It'll bleed into your career, fostering sickness. It'll bleed into your diet, into your daily habits, into your relationship with your kids. So, what businesses do you support, work for, interact with, and give your time, attention, and energy to? Let's go back to the question of, am I manipulating you? No. I'm simply not doing that. I simply don't value that. Personally, I've raised my consciousness to the point where I just won't do that. I don't care. It's unfulfilling. It's sickening. When I manipulate and exploit someone, that ripples back to impact me. The suffering of others is my own suffering. The suffering of the trees and the globe that I live on is my own suffering. So when I harm stuff, it harms me. This is what happens when you raise your consciousness. You take this sort of responsibility and you care about the rights of all of life. You see the preciousness and beauty of life while also having a sense of care and empathy for that which exists. The energy of manipulating hurts others, including yourself. It's a terrible decision, and the only way that we can make this decision repeatedly is if we lack true development and if we lack actual maturity, if we're at low levels of consciousness. The work that I do here on this channel is based on many years of personal growth, my own personal development and raising my own consciousness, which even before taking this very seriously, I did for many, many, many years. Contemplating how to raise consciousness, how to impact humanity in a healthy way. Figuring this stuff out, reading hundreds of books, from psychology to all forms of health, to science, to spirituality and all spiritual traditions, to history, to all these branches of therapy, internal family systems, somatic experiencing, etc. You get the point. My work's based on hundreds of books and the dozens of different perspectives that I've actually deeply investigated. Check out my free book list, by the way. Points you to a lot of the top resources that I've came across, which are incredibly helpful. Can help you with your career, your relationships, your own health and well-being, your understanding of the world, your self-actualization, etc. Very valuable. The work I do here is also the byproduct of the various forms of energy that I've interacted with, like people, the food that I've ate, cleaning up my diet over years, the information in which I've interacted with and put into my mind, the environments in which I find myself and the habits I do, like yoga and meditation and exercise, the meditation retreats that I've done, long meditation retreats, where I'm looking at my own mind, looking at my own ego, noticing how it can deceive itself, noticing the sneakiness of human psychology in my own mind, something that we both share. My title is a promise of value. It's based on the idea that if you listen to this and it truly clicks, that you start this sort of inner self-actualization journey. And it's based on this idea that will save you a lot of time, energy, and unnecessary suffering. It's based on the idea that if this clicks, you'll recognize all the kind of addictions you have in your life that are sucking your energy and your time. And you'll be able to free that up as you do this kind of inner work and heal. And then your tendency to want to distract and escape yourself in your life, this is going to dismantle, and instead you'll be left with a deep sense of presence and connection to yourself, to the people around you, to the environment that you find yourself in, to the present experience, to the very nature of existence itself. Of course, it's also meant to bring out curiosity and get people to watch, but the value is still there. So what am I even doing here? What am I doing in this video? I'm trying to sway you in the direction of creating a healthy life for yourself and actually putting in the energy, the time, the attention, and the resources, the emotional labor that it actually takes to really do that. I'm swaying you in the direction of living a more conscious lifestyle to increase your fulfillment in your career, in your relationships, in every facet of your life. So you're not living out of just survival mode and being exploited and being manipulative. People who are exploited and manipulated are also exploiters and manipulators, because it keeps people at low levels of consciousness. People at high levels of consciousness, you can't really exploit them or manipulate them. They're too sensitive to that. They're too intuitive. They can detect it. They understand the psychology of it. They understand it theoretically. They can also just sense it and pick it up off of you when you're trying to do that. So again, what am I really doing here? I'm trying to sway you to help yourself rather than living an unconscious life that's been doom scrolled away. 10 years gone, just doom scrolling. Again, the young people nowadays are born completely addicted to their phone. I have a lot of compassion for these people because I was one of them. When I was around 18/19, I had this just total realization that I have to stop using this thing. I have to stop using my phone. I'd wake up and I would scroll, etc. You get the point. Now I just don't even touch my phone. I'm not really engaged in distractions for the most part. Am I saying you can't watch a movie? Am I saying that you can't ever touch your phone? You can't ever enjoy a cookie? No, of course not. But you need to watch the place from where that's coming from and ensure that it's not coming from a place of just wanting to distract, wanting to escape, wanting to numb yourself. Because that energy that you're numbing and avoiding is going to manifest in a different way that's going to have consequences on you and everything around you. So again, I'm trying to sway you into living a more conscious lifestyle, trying to sway you into helping yourself. I'm trying to sway you towards a more healthy lifestyle so that you don't experience a lot of unnecessary suffering. It's simply unnecessary. It's created by yourself, by your own patterns, by your own psyche. So if this video triggers that in you, can you see how important that actually is in the big picture of your life? If you're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, to 25, to 50, can you see how important that actually is to kind of begin to snap out of that, snap out of the trance and the social matrix and all the exploitation and manipulation that goes on in our culture, all the sickness of it, and commit to this kind of inner work of healing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Can you see the value of that and how much of your life and your precious energy you'll actually take back? I also want you to recognize that you've also been free to click off this video this entire time. If this has been of no value to you, please click off. This is just simply not for you. So again, recognize that this has the potential to actually save many years of unnecessary mistakes and suffering. Now, I want to boil all this down to just the core essence of what this video is really about. The first one is that it's not about just never enjoying anything, like I said, but where is the impulse to reach for pleasure coming from? And what's the pleasure that you're reaching for? Because again, keep in mind that you're being exploited proactively by these social media companies, by fast food, by our consumerist culture. You're being conditioned and just simply manipulated for profit, and it's making you sick. And when you're sick, it impacts the rest of us. And when it's sick people manipulating sick people, right? How long can our species survive for, really? So where is the impulse to reach for pleasure coming from? Maybe the avoidance of pain. Is it a coping mechanism? Is it a form of escapism? Are you trying to cover up a particular feeling? Feel into the quality of the energy that you interact with. Are the things that you're interacting with giving to you? Are they giving life to you? Or is it just taking it away? Is it that simple? It's that simple. Are the things that you do in your life, are they giving you just as much or more of what you're putting into them? If you're giving and giving and giving, and they're either making you sick or they're just taking away from you, and you keep interacting with those things, right? Can you see the danger of this pattern of doom scrolling away on social media? It gives you nothing. Eating all this kind of fast food, endless video games, endless porn, endless Netflix, endless mindless pleasure to escape. Right? It's all very carefully crafted, engineered to exploit you. In many cases, the companies that do this understand the people better than the people know themselves. So sense into what you're interacting with. Is it healthy? Is it giving you genuine value? If it's not, find something that's going to be giving you genuine value. The next point is that distraction is the ego's best defense mechanism. Why self-actualize? Why self-transcend? Why get enlightened? Why read hundreds of books? Why meditate? Why do personal growth? Why learn more about how to create great relationships or make a fantastic business that actually helps people and comes back to provide for yourself and your family as well? Right? Why have a healthy career when you can just doom scroll instead? When there's all sorts of ways to just distract yourself from all that instead. And just like that, it's right here. It's highly pleasurable, flashing lights, highly stimulating. Right? Why do all that inner work where you got to dig through all these shadows and this pain and you got to change and it's kind of uncomfortable? Why do any of that kind of stuff? Right? When instead, doom scroll, ice cream. Distraction keeps you asleep to your potential as a human being. And when I say your full potential, this doesn't mean you have to be a huge celebrity, etc. Maybe your full potential isn't about that. Maybe your best gifts are being a fantastic mom who's extremely loving to their kids, the most loving mom that's ever existed. Maybe your potential doesn't have to be this sort of grand thing, right? But why is bigger better? I would ask you to question that. Perhaps bigger is not always better. Maybe what's better is discovering your core values, your core gifts, your core preferences, personality, psychology, and optimizing that so that you can experience more fulfillment. Distraction keeps you asleep to, like I said, your potential and to the truth and beauty of life. Distraction keeps you asleep to the profundity of this experience. If I perform a miracle 100 times, by the 50th time, you don't care anymore. This moment right here is the miracle. Life is magic. Life is profound. Life is extremely amazing. And we're asleep to it because we take it so for granted and we're numb to it. We don't even know what this is. We've normalized being asleep, just sleepwalking and acting like unconscious zombies. We've normalized disconnection. We've normalized sickness. We've normalized delusion. We've normalized manipulation. We've normalized exploitation. So essentially, you miss the miracle of being. You miss the miracle of existence. You miss the miracle and profundity of this right here. You miss out on the best thing to realize, which is what this existence is ultimately. That's it for this video. If you guys are interested in working with me one-to-one, you can apply to do so. Link is in the pinned comment. Take it easy.